In the vast reaches of space, far beyond the borders of known civilizations, there was a place untouched by war, untouched by greed, and untouched by the turmoil that plagued the rest of the galaxy. The Zayara, a race of the most peaceful beings in the galaxy, resided there, in a place where time seemed to slow, where harmony resonated in every breath they took. Their home, known as Andaras, was a sanctuary, a world of brilliant crystalline structures and serene landscapes, bathed in the soft glow of distant stars. For centuries, the Zayara had chosen to observe rather than interfere. They had studied the galaxy's many races, understanding their histories, their cultures, and their struggles. They had watched the rise and fall of empires, the peaceful victories, and the violent wars that shaped the course of history. But the Zayara had never chosen to become involved. They believed in the power of peace, in the belief that true growth could only occur when a species found its own path without external influence. The Zayara were diplomats by nature, preferring dialogue to conflict, and they trusted that even the most war-torn civilizations could find their own way to tranquility. But something was different this time. This time, the Zayara had noticed something that disturbed the balance they had so carefully maintained. For the first time in millennia, they saw a new force on the horizon, one that threatened the fragile peace of the galaxy and the future of humanity. The humans, a relatively young species on the galactic stage, had been drawn into a war far beyond their understanding. It all began with a signal. The Zayara had been watching Earth from a distance, observing the rapid advancements of humanity in science, technology, and space exploration. They had long admired humanity's curiosity and resilience. However, they had also seen the darker side of human nature, the conflicts, the divisions, the violence. The Zayara had hoped that humanity would grow beyond these struggles, as many other species had done in the past. But something had changed. The peace the humans had once fought for was slipping away, and the Zayara could feel it. The balance of the galaxy was tipping toward a war that could engulf all races, and humanity, for the first time, was at its heart. A signal had been detected, a distress signal from a distant human colony on a newly discovered planet. The message was brief, a mere cry for help against an unknown enemy that had arrived from the farthest reaches of the galaxy. The Zayara knew that this enemy wasn't just a threat to this one colony, it was a threat to the entire galaxy. The shadow of war was creeping toward the peaceful worlds that had long avoided such destruction. The Zayara Council gathered in the Grand Hall, a magnificent structure made of crystal and light, where the brightest minds of their civilization had met for generations. The atmosphere was tense. The Zayara elders, draped in their flowing robes of iridescent material, stood before a massive holographic display, showing the location of the human colony under siege. The stars twinkled in the background, as if holding their breath in the face of impending conflict. "We cannot ignore this," said High Elder Kayla, her voice soft yet firm. "Humanity is in danger. Their enemies are unlike any we've seen before. The warning signs are clear. They will not stop at one colony. They will spread, consuming everything in their path." "But why now?" questioned Elder Lorraine, his tone one of doubt. "We have remained neutral for centuries, observing, guiding from afar. It is not our place to intervene. Humanity must find its own way, as all civilizations must." "I understand your hesitation, Lorraine," Kayla replied, her gaze steady. "But the galaxy is changing. If we do nothing, we risk not just the lives of humans, but the peace of every species. The ripple effects of this war could reach even our peaceful worlds. We cannot remain passive any longer." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. The Zayara had always valued peace above all else, but now peace was under threat, and there seemed to be no way to protect it without stepping into the fray. Elder Rillan, the most experienced warrior among them, spoke next. "Peace cannot exist in the face of unchecked destruction. I have spent my life studying the art of defense, not for the glory of battle, but for the preservation of what is right. The time has come to make a choice. We can no longer stand by and watch as darkness consumes the galaxy." The words hung in the air, and a sense of resolve began to build within the room. It was true. The Zayara had no history of war, no knowledge of how to fight like the other civilizations in the galaxy. Their methods of resolution had always been peaceful, their technologies advanced, but designed for healing, not harm. Yet, they knew that some threats could not be reasoned with or ignored. The decision was made. "We will stand with humanity," Kayla declared, her voice resolute. "We will defend them, not with violence, but with unity. Our knowledge, our strength, and our willpower will be their greatest allies in this struggle." The Zayara Council nodded in agreement, knowing full well the risks they were taking. They would be leaving their sanctuary, their peaceful existence, to fight in a war that was not their own. But the choice was clear. If they did nothing, the peace they had fought so hard to maintain would be lost forever. As the council disbanded, a new alliance was formed, a bond between the Zayara and humanity, one that would change the fate of the galaxy. On Earth, the news of the Zayara's decision spread quickly. At first, there was disbelief. Who were these peaceful beings, and why would they risk their lives to defend a species they barely knew? But as the Zayara's emissaries arrived, humanity began to understand the depth of their commitment. The Zayara brought with them not only advanced technology, but also a message of hope, a belief that even in the darkest times, peace could still be found. And so, the stage was set. The Zayara, once distant and enigmatic, had now stepped into the fight alongside humanity. Their role was not to lead, but to guide, offering wisdom, technology, and strategies to help humanity face the threats that had come from the farthest corners of the galaxy. They would not fight as conquerors, but as protectors, ensuring that humanity's future was not shaped by war, but by peace. As the Zayara arrived on Earth, the world watched in awe. For the first time, humanity was not alone in their struggle. The galaxy's most peaceful species had chosen to stand by their side, not because they believed in war, but because they believed in the power of unity. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, and together, they would prove that even in the darkest times, there is always a way to find peace. And so, the story of the Zayara and humanity's alliance began. The hum of advanced machinery echoed through the halls of the Zayara's flagship vessel, the Seraphis, as it glided silently through the stars toward Earth. The peacekeepers of the galaxy, the Zayara, had made a monumental decision. They had chosen to stand with humanity. For a species that had never known war, the responsibility now rested heavy on their shoulders. This was not merely a political alliance. It was a promise of survival. The fate of both worlds was intertwined. The Zayara had arrived, and humanity was watching. Earth had never seen anything like it. News outlets buzzed with excitement, confusion, and skepticism as the first images of the Zayara's flagship appeared in the sky. Massive, sleek ships that seemed to shimmer with a light all their own. They hovered above Earth, casting enormous shadows across the cities below. Their arrival was met with awe and fear, but most of all, with curiosity. In a large command center in the heart of Washington, D.C., human leaders gathered, their faces a mix of disbelief and awe. Dr. Leo Mendez, a young scientist and communications expert, had worked tirelessly to make contact with the Zayara before their arrival. His theories on peaceful interspecies dialogue had been controversial, even among his colleagues. But now, as the Zayara arrived, Leo found himself at the center of an unprecedented moment in human history. The Zayara's presence was not just a matter of technology. It was a testament to their values. They didn't come with weapons or threats. They came with knowledge, technology, and a sense of quiet resolve. The emissaries of the Zayara were not soldiers. They were philosophers, diplomats, and healers. Their robes glistened like stars themselves, and their calm eyes seemed to look beyond the surface of everything, as if seeing not only what was, but what could be. It was clear that their strength lay not in force, but in the wisdom of their choices. Dr. Leo Mendez stood before the assembled human leaders, his mind racing. He had been selected to lead the first official communication with the Zayara. This was the moment he had dreamed of. But now that it was here, he felt a wave of doubt. Could he communicate the urgency of their situation? Could the Zayara truly help humanity? Could anyone help? Suddenly, the vast, translucent screen in front of him flickered, and a soft voice filled the room. The image of a Zayara emissary appeared, tall, elegant, with pale, shimmering skin, and eyes that seemed to shimmer with an unspoken understanding. "I am Kayla of the Zayara," the voice said. "We have come to offer our help, to protect your species, not by war, but by unity." There was a heavy silence in the room as the leaders of Earth exchanged uncertain glances. How could these peaceful beings possibly help in a war? Leo stepped forward, his voice steady but unsure. "How can we trust you? How can we trust a species that has never fought? We are facing an enemy unlike anything we have ever known. Sophisticated, brutal, and relentless. How can you stand by us?" Kayla's eyes never wavered as she met his gaze through the holographic display. "We have seen your species. We have observed your struggles, your triumphs. It is not through force that we can help you, Dr. Mendez. It is through your strength, your resilience. You do not need our war machines. You need our knowledge, our wisdom, and our guidance." Leo's heart raced. He had studied the Zayara, but this was different. This was real. "But we are at war. You do not understand the kind of enemies we face. The Sarnath are ruthless, alien beings who see only conquest. They will not stop until they have destroyed everything." Kayla's gaze softened, but her voice remained firm. "We understand far more than you think. The Sarnath, like many before them, are driven by fear and desire for control. They do not understand the power of unity, the strength of peace. This is where we come in. Together, we can show them that there is more to the universe than war." Leo hesitated. Could peace truly triumph over such brutal force? The Sarnath had decimated entire worlds in their wake, leaving nothing but ashes. How could peace possibly stand a chance against such a force? The turning point was not just in the Zayara's arrival, but in their unwavering belief in a different way, a way that would take humanity out of its survival mode and into something more. As the conversation continued, Leo found himself grappling with a deeper question. The Zayara weren't offering their help in the way most would expect, through weapons or fleets of ships. They were offering a path forward, a solution rooted in their deep understanding of harmony and unity. They were asking humanity to consider a new approach to its struggles. Kayla explained further. "The Zayara have developed techniques that do not involve violence, but understanding. We offer to teach you methods of communication and cooperation that will allow you to outwit your enemies. The Sarnath are not invincible, as they believe. We will help you disrupt their systems, turn their technology against them. And most importantly, we will teach you to fight in ways you have never thought of, ways that will preserve life, not destroy it." Leo's mind swirled with possibilities. It was an answer he hadn't even considered. Could it be possible to fight a war without actually fighting? Could there be a way to stop the Sarnath without losing so many lives? As the conversation came to an end, the human leaders were left with a decision. They could choose the traditional path, the one they knew, the one filled with more weapons, more violence, and more destruction. Or they could follow the path the Zayara were offering, a path of peace, a path that would take everything humanity had ever believed about warfare and turn it on its head. The tension in the room was palpable. The human leaders and military generals debated fiercely, some demanding immediate military action, while others saw merit in the Zayara's proposal. Leo watched as the room fractured into factions, each side pulling in different directions. And yet, through it all, there was something undeniable about the Zayara's message. There was a quiet power in their words, a certainty that this was the right path to take. As the debate raged on, Leo stood by the window, looking out at the earth below. The planet was beautiful from this height, so fragile, so full of life. And then he thought of the Sarnath and the destruction they had brought. The Zayara were offering something that no one else had ever considered, a way to defeat the enemy without becoming like them. The moment of decision had arrived. Finally, after hours of debate, the decision was made. Humanity would accept the Zayara's help, but not in the way that had been expected. There would be no immediate military strike. Instead, the human leaders would work with the Zayara, learning their ways, understanding their technologies, and preparing for the long battle ahead. The Zayara had not come to fight, but to guide. They would teach humanity how to fight with wisdom, not brute force. They would offer their knowledge, their strategies, and most importantly, their belief in the power of peace. The alliance had been forged. As Leo stood with Kayla and the other Zayara emissaries, he couldn't help but wonder what this new alliance would mean. Could peace truly win the day? Could the galaxy's most peaceful species really help humanity defeat the Sarnath? Only time would tell, but for the first time in a long while, Leo felt a spark of hope. And that spark would be enough. The war had already begun. The first wave of Sarnath forces arrived on Earth's doorstep with the ferocity of a storm. The Sarnath were not known for their diplomacy or compassion. They were a brutal, warrior-driven race, obsessed with conquest and power. Earth was simply another prize in their quest for dominance across the galaxy. To them, humanity was insignificant, nothing more than a small, fledgling species that would be crushed under the weight of their empire. But Earth's response had been different than any enemy had expected. The Zayara, a peaceful race of aliens who had long remained in the shadows, had chosen to stand with humanity, not to fight, but to guide. To help humanity understand that peace could be a weapon, and that unity could be a power stronger than even the most advanced technology. And so, the alliance was born. It wasn't an easy decision for the human leaders to make. The Zayara had no experience in warfare. They had never fought a battle. Their weapons were not made for destruction, but for healing and diplomacy. Yet the leaders of Earth had agreed to trust them. They had seen enough of the Sarnath's devastation to know that they could not face them alone. The Zayara's teachings began to spread like wildfire, first within military circles, and then across all sectors of human society. While the Zayara did not offer conventional weapons, they brought with them something even more valuable: knowledge. The knowledge of how to break down the Sarnath's communication networks, how to infiltrate their systems, how to use the Sarnath's own technology against them. Dr. Leo Mendez, who had long been a skeptic of the Zayara's approach, had come to realize something essential. The Sarnath were not like humanity's previous enemies. They were not merely aggressive. They were ruthlessly efficient in war. But they had one fatal flaw: their reliance on brute force. And this, the Zayara understood better than anyone. The first steps of the alliance were a delicate dance. Human soldiers, led by their commanders, were skeptical of the Zayara's methods at first. How could peacekeepers who had never seen war teach them how to survive in a battlefield? But as the Zayara demonstrated their strategies, it became clear that they possessed an understanding of conflict that no human had ever imagined. The Zayara spoke of harmony, how every being, no matter how powerful, was connected in the cosmic web of existence. They showed humanity how to tap into that understanding, how to view their enemies not just as adversaries to defeat, but as beings with their own fears, desires, and weaknesses. They taught humanity how to create alliances, even with those who seemed like enemies, and how to destabilize the Sarnath's power through subtle, calculated actions instead of all-out warfare. As humanity adopted these new methods, something miraculous began to happen. Humanity's military forces, once entrenched in conventional warfare tactics, began to notice a shift in their mindset. They were no longer thinking of the Sarnath in terms of enemy and victim. They began to see them as part of a larger puzzle, a puzzle that could be solved, not through brute force, but through strategy, intelligence, and cooperation. The Zayara's influence began to penetrate every corner of Earth's military infrastructure. Leo Mendez worked alongside the Zayara to implement these new strategies. Together, they developed a series of covert operations designed to disable the Sarnath's technology and disrupt their supply chains. These operations were based on subtlety, sabotaging enemy communications, creating confusion within their ranks, and striking at their most vulnerable points. It was a new kind of warfare, quiet, clever, and effective. And it was working. But there were still skeptics among the human leadership. As the Sarnath forces continued to advance, the pressure to take more direct action mounted. Earth's governments began to push for more aggressive tactics, wanting to see the immediate results of their alliance with the Zayara. They demanded to know when the real weapons would be deployed, when the Zayara would finally unleash their powers. But the Zayara remained calm, explaining that their greatest weapon was not in their technology, but in the minds of the humans they had partnered with. The turning point came when the Sarnath launched a full-scale invasion of Earth's capital. For the first time in the war, the Zayara's tactics were put to the ultimate test. The Sarnath forces were vast, their numbers overwhelming. They descended on the city like a tidal wave, tearing through the defenses with their advanced weaponry. Earth's military forces were pushed to the brink of defeat, their conventional strategies failing against the sheer power of the Sarnath. As the situation grew more desperate, Leo Mendez found himself once again at the heart of the conflict. He stood in the control room of the Earth Defense Command, watching the chaos unfold on the screen. The Sarnath were close to breaking through, and the city was on the brink of falling. "Leo, we need to act now," one of the generals urged, his voice urgent. "We can't wait for the Zayara to come up with some kind of peaceful solution. We need a strike. Now." But Leo didn't respond. His mind was racing, his thoughts flicking back to the Zayara's teachings. Peace wasn't a weakness, it was a strategy. He knew there had to be another way. And then, in that moment, Leo remembered something Kayla had once said to him. Victory is not always found in the fight. Sometimes it is found in the space between the blows. With those words in mind, Leo made a decision. It wasn't about fighting harder. It was about fighting smarter. He turned to the Zayara advisors who were present in the control room and gave them a simple instruction. "Prepare the signal," he said. "It's time to put the plan into action." The plan was simple, yet risky. Using the Zayara's advanced technology, they would disrupt the Sarnath's communication networks, creating a massive wave of confusion and disarray among their ranks. At the same time, they would use the Sarnath's own weapons against them, turning their power against them with the Zayara's specialized hacking techniques. As the Zayara worked their magic, the tides began to turn. The Sarnath forces, once so confident in their superiority, began to falter. Their communication systems were shattered, and their troops were thrown into chaos. Their supply lines were cut, their strategic plans undone by the very technology they had relied on. For the first time in the war, Earth's military forces took the offensive, not with overwhelming force, but with calculated precision, striking at the Sarnath's weakest points. The Zayara's methods had worked. The Sarnath, unable to regain control, were forced to retreat. It was a victory, one that humanity had not anticipated. And it was all thanks to the Zayara's unexpected alliance. The battle had shown humanity that strength could be found in unity, in strategy, and in the willingness to think differently. The Zayara had brought a new kind of warfare to Earth, not one of destruction, but of disruption, deception, and precision. They had proven that peace was not a passive thing. It was an active force, a weapon that could be wielded with purpose and power. As the Sarnath forces retreated, the Earth's defenders celebrated their unlikely victory. But for Leo and the Zayara, there was no celebration. They knew that this was just the beginning. The Sarnath were not done, and there was still much work to be done to secure the future of humanity. But in that moment, something had changed. Humanity had learned a new way of fighting, a way that was peaceful, strategic, and powerful. And for the first time in the war, The future seemed just a little bit brighter. The unexpected alliance had worked, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The war had raged on for months. The Sarnath forces had proven to be formidable adversaries, their brutal and relentless attacks taking a heavy toll on both the human and Zayara forces. Yet, despite their superiority in weaponry and numbers, the Sarnath had underestimated one thing: the alliance between humanity and the Zayara. The Zayara, with their deep understanding of peace and diplomacy, had brought something to the table that the Sarnath had never expected: unity. Together, the humans and Zayara had turned the tide of war, dismantling the Sarnath's technological infrastructure, disrupting their communications, and striking at the very core of their power. The Sarnath, once invincible in their eyes, were now on the defensive, their grip on the galaxy slowly slipping away. The sky above Earth was ablaze with the light of countless battleships, their weapons charging for the first strike. The Sarnath were relentless, their firepower overwhelming. But the Zayara had taught humanity how to adapt, how to think several steps ahead. The humans deployed the Zayara's tactics, using stealth technology and subversive tactics to infiltrate the Sarnath's command ships. Earth's forces, no longer relying solely on brute strength, struck at the heart of the Sarnath's war machine, disrupting their systems, sabotaging their communications, and creating chaos among their ranks. The Sarnath responded with fury, launching devastating volleys of energy blasts toward Earth's defenses. Yet for every strike they made, the humans and Zayara responded with calculated precision. It was not the power of their weapons that was winning this battle. It was the power of their strategy, the ability to disrupt, to outsmart their enemies at every turn. As the battle waged on, Leo's thoughts drifted back to the Zayara's teachings, their belief that peace was not a passive pursuit, but an active force that could be used to disrupt even the most aggressive of foes. The Sarnath, with all their firepower and fury, were not prepared for this. They had relied too much on their strength, too much on their weapons, and not enough on the strength of their minds. But just as Earth's forces seemed to gain the upper hand, the Sarnath made a final desperate move. Their flagship, a massive vessel unlike any other, surged forward, its weapons charged for a devastating blow. The Sarnath were willing to sacrifice everything for victory. It was a bold, suicidal move, but one that could change the course of the war if successful. "We can't let them get close," one of the generals shouted, panic in his voice. Kayla, who had been calmly observing the battle, turned to Leo. "This is the final test. We have one chance to end this." Leo's heart raced as he realized what Kayla was suggesting. The Zayara had always spoken of peace, of unity, but now they were asking humanity to make a choice, to use the very forces of war against the Sarnath, to end this once and for all. It was a bold decision, but it was the only choice. Leo turned to the general, his voice firm. "Redirect all power to the defensive shields. We need to hold them off long enough for the Zayara to take their shot." The general hesitated, but then nodded. "Aye, sir. All power to the shields." The Sarnath flagship closed in. The entire command center held its breath as Earth's shields flared brightly, absorbing the full force of the Sarnath's attack. The shields held, but only just. For a moment, it seemed as though they might fail, and the Sarnath flagship would destroy everything in its path. Then, from the shadows of the Zayara's fleet, a single ship emerged. A Zayara battleship, glowing with the brilliance of the stars themselves. It flew toward the Sarnath flagship with incredible speed, a perfect arc of light against the dark expanse of space. As it neared, a powerful energy pulse erupted from the Zayara ship, striking the Sarnath flagship in a blinding flash. The Sarnath flagship exploded. In an instant, the tide of the battle shifted. The Sarnath forces, thrown into disarray by the loss of their flagship, faltered. Without their leader, they were lost. Earth's forces, emboldened by the Zayara's sacrifice, launched a final assault, overwhelming the remaining Sarnath ships. As the last of the Sarnath ships retreated, The humans and Zayara stood victorious. The war was over. The entire command center held its breath as Earth's shields flared brightly, absorbing the full force of the Sarnath's attack. The shields held, but only just. For a moment, it seemed as though they might fail, and the Sarnath flagship would destroy everything in its path. Then, from the shadows of the Zayara's fleet, a single ship emerged, a Zayara battleship, glowing with the brilliance of the stars themselves. It flew toward the Sarnath flagship with incredible speed, a perfect arc of light against the dark expanse of space. As it neared, a powerful energy pulse erupted from the Zayara ship, striking the Sarnath flagship in a blinding flash. The Sarnath flagship exploded. In an instant, the tide of the battle shifted. The Sarnath forces, thrown into disarray by the loss of their flagship, faltered. Without their leader, they were lost. Earth's forces, emboldened by the Zayara's sacrifice, launched a final assault, overwhelming the remaining Sarnath ships. As the last of the Sarnath ships retreated, the humans and Zayara stood victorious. The war was over. The silence that followed was deafening. Earth's capital, once threatened with destruction, now stood as a symbol of hope. The galaxy had witnessed the triumph of unity over brute force, of peace over violence. The Zayara, who had once stood apart, had become the heart of humanity's survival, teaching them that peace was not simply a dream. It was a powerful force that could shape the future. Leo Mendez stood amidst the ruins of the battle, his heart filled with both relief and sadness. The cost of the war had been great, but the lessons learned would echo through the galaxy for generations. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as beings of peace, guided by the wisdom of the Zayara. And in that moment, Leo understood. The true power of humanity was not in its weapons or its technology, but in its ability to unite, to stand together, and to choose peace even in the face of overwhelming odds. It was a lesson that would shape the future of the galaxy, a future where peace was not just the absence of war, but the active force that held the universe together. The Zayara had stood with humanity, not because they believed in war, but because they believed in something greater, the power of hope, of unity, and the strength of peace. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all.